Hey, this is Sora, and for today's UI workshop, I'm going to be talking about tidy plates. Tidy plates is a nameplate add-on that is often recommended for tanks. It not only makes plates look prettier, but it adds in threat monitoring, dot timers, and more. Since I personally don't have much tanking experience, I thought I would recruit a little help with this video. Joining us today is Tibere, one of our guild's tanks and a user of tidy plates for the last couple of years or so, is that correct?
Yes, I've been using it since, I believe, early in Icecrown.
Awesome, so how did you first hear about tidy plates?
Well, if you remember the first couple packs in Icecrown, there's a lot of large groups where you have to manage aggro on a lot of guys, and what would happen is that a lot of the DPS would steal aggro, and I got kind of tired of not seeing easily which mob I had to pick back up, so I basically just searched around and found threat plates, which is a module for tidy plates. From there I found tidy plates, and I've been using the two since then.
So why do you think people suggest this add-on for tanks in particular?
Well, especially when you have lots of packs of, large packs of mobs, you have a lot of guys you have to worry about, like, oh, is this DPS attacking the right guy? And if they're not, then they can easily pull a threat off of you. And with something like tidy plates, and with the module I use, but tidy plates generally, it's very easy to all of a sudden see among a lot of, green or whatever color you have it, one turn red for losing aggro. And you can easily click on that plate and pick it up without having to worry about trying to tab through or watch for mobs running away and try to click on them as they're going. It just makes it very easy to look at the pack of mobs on the screen and see when something goes wrong.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's happening in this footage here?
Well, we're working through the trash in early Firelands before Shanox, and there's a couple packs in here that demonstrate it pretty well. The packs with all of the Pathfinders, the Flamewalkers, those show it pretty well because there are two tanks here, and we have to make sure we have aggro on all of them. It's a little weird on my setup since if the other tank grabs it, it looks like I'm losing aggro, but no problem here with picking up too many mobs. Basically, so I just look at multiple mobs here and watch them. Later there are other packs as well. The three dogs come to mind, where I basically just want to make sure that I have aggro on as many of those as possible and don't want them to fall out and attack the ranged or the melee DPS. And another time when it's particularly useful is if, say, a ranged DPS or healer accidentally pulls another pack of mobs. It's useful to see that a large red or orange plates coming onto the screen, letting you know that this is something you absolutely have to deal with. In this case, with the Scorpions, they're not really tankable, but you can see the idea.
Have you had any problems with tidy plates?
No, this is one of those nice add-ons that, for the most part, you just install it and then it works. There's only so much that it does, although it is a little more configurable than some really small ones. But for the most part, you set it up, and then as long as you keep it updated with each patch, it works nicely and just stays out of the way and does what you want it to do.
Would you recommend this for people who are just learning how to tank?
Absolutely. One of the nice things about tanking is that the crutches that help you out early on are still useful later on. So I would have loved having this when I first started tanking, just being able to see, based on the nameplates, that I'm losing threat on a mob. And plus, since you're going to be seeing plates anyway, you may as well load them up with this information, since it's not going to be a lot of new visual noise.
Well, great. Thanks for taking the time to help us out here today.
You're welcome.
So now that we've seen and heard what tidy plates can do for tanks, let's move into the nitty-gritty of setting it up. To get to the configuration for tidy plates, just type in /tidyplates. You'll notice three sections: tidy plates hub tank, and tidy plates hub damage. The first tidy plate section is where you'll set whether or not you want the nameplates to be in the tanking or DPSing mode, and then you can adjust the settings for either in these two hubs. The first thing that I'm going to do, and that you may want to do as well, is set up the Blizzard nameplate motion and visibility options. Clicking on this button will redirect you to the standard Blizzard settings for nameplates. Down here in the unit nameplate section, you can choose which nameplates you'd like to show. For demonstration purposes, I'll check off friendly units. You can also choose here how the nameplates will move when they're near each other. By default, it's set to overlap, however you can choose to have them stack vertically or spread out. Most people choose overlapping since it looks less cluttered, but pick whichever one works for you. Once that is set up, head over to the Add-ons tab and back into the Tidy Plate section. The primary and secondary themes are where you can choose the nameplate style, neon, gray, graphite, and quatre, and role, tank, or DPS. The primary and secondary themes will switch automatically for you when you change specs, which is handy. You can also choose none for a transparent, unskinned background. For enemy nameplates, you can choose between having it automatically show in combat and hide when out of combat, or hide when in combat and show when out of combat, or neither. You can do the same for friendly nameplates. Tidy plates by default will show the cast bar of your enemy target. If you want it to show non-target casting bars, you'll have to check this option. Now that you have themes decided and automation set up, you can further customize the options for each role. Let's start with the tank hub. You may have noticed these copy and paste buttons. These will allow you to copy and paste settings between different characters, a big time saver. In the style section, you can choose what you want to show for enemy and friendly nameplates. You can have text only, bars on active or damaged units, bars during combat, bars just on elite units, bars on marked units, or bars just on player units. The opacity section is pretty cool. How it's set up right now means that when you select a target, the nameplate will be fully opaque and non-targets will fade away like so. There's an additional option called Spotlight Opacity that lets you add in another trigger for opacity levels, like low threat, mouse over, debuffs, enemy, NPCs, raid icons, or active or damaged. So as an example, if I choose mouse over and up the opacity to 100%, as my mouse hovers over a nameplate, the opacity will jump up to 100%. Tanks might be interested in using the low threat option and setting the opacity to 100%. These two options are pretty self-explanatory, so let's go down to filtered unit opacity. If you want neutral, non-elites, or inactive units to have their own opacity levels, you can adjust them here. You can even get really specific and add in a unit name to filter. In the scale section, you can increase or decrease the size of the nameplates overall and configure settings for the scale spotlight mode, similar to the opacity spotlight mode. Here, tanks may like having low threat units scaled up a bit as well. In the text options, you can change how the name text chooses its color, whether it's from class color, threat level, or reaction type. For the health text, you can have it display the health number in percent, exact health, health deficit, health total, and percent who the unit is a target of, and their approximate or rounded health. You can also choose to see their level text, and if you want to see the default Blizzard font. For the health bar, you can choose to have its color based off the threat level, so for tanks that would be yellow when your threat is low, orange when somebody else has threat, or blue when you have threat. Or you can have its color based off class or reaction. Tanks will definitely want the warning glow/border mode enabled by low threat, which will put up a large glowy border around a nameplate when your threat is low. Underneath threat colors, you can adjust the color settings, and below that, you can enable class colors for party and raid members and boardings for group members with aggro. In the widget section, you can turn on some additional features for tidy plates. Already checked off are the highlight on the current target, an elite indicator, which shows up as a small star on the nameplate, combo points, and threat indicators. Tug-O threat will display a sliding bar on top of the nameplate that shifts from left to right based on your threat level. It's kind of hard to explain, so let's see if we can get a good shot of it. As you can see here, when you have high threat on a target, the threat bar is on the right half of the nameplate. The more threat you have, the larger the bar. When someone pulls threat, the threat bar moves to the left. The threat wheel option shows a colored wheel that fills up based on the amount of threat that their current target has. Here's another clip that could show it better than I can describe. You can also display enemy class icons, party member class icons, and totem icons. Checking off Party Range Warning will display a series of circles on your party member's nameplate that will show up based on the range settings you have. So for example, I have the range indicator set to notify me at 9 yards, and as I'm getting closer to my party member, his nameplate will light up and have that bullseye effect. You may have noticed by now that my Warlock's dots and their timers have been showing up in the nameplates. This is thanks to the debuff timer option here, which comes with several filter options. Finally, at the bottom underneath the frame heading is where you can adjust the vertical position of the nameplate. If we switch over to the damage hub, you'll notice that many of the options look similar to the tank hub. The default settings do have some minor differences, such as the scale spotlight mode, which for the DPS will make nameplates bigger when the threat level is higher. For tanks, however, the opposite is true. You'll also notice that the threat colors are reversed from the tanking hub. Here, orange is for when you pull aggro, yellow for gaining aggro, and blue for when it's attacking others. For both, it's easy to remember that for the default colors, blue is good, yellow is the danger zone, and orange is bad. Well, that pretty much covers everything you need to know about tidy plates. I hope this guide has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, please visit us over at the Learn to Raid forums. To nominate an add-on for the next UI workshop, just go to learntoraid.com/forum/UIsuggest. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, watch us on Twitch TV, and follow us on Twitter. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
I wasn't feeling so good. I just didn't feel like playing anymore. scrunched up in front of my phonograph. And I sat there and